Hello everyone and welcome back to another theory video, specifically on FNAF the Musical. Today we're talking about, believe it or not, the final episode of the prequel series, FNAF Virus. It's hard to believe that our first video in the series was all the way back in June, and now we're at the end of October about to cover the final things the series has left to offer. So, before I begin, Random Encounters, I applaud you. Thank you for putting so much effort into this series, giving me something to theorize about. Most importantly, more glitchtrap lines! I cannot say how much I am grateful that this series is finally getting the ending it deserves. So, with that out of the way, let's see if we can wrap this up once and for all and get these mysteries solved. Let's kick things off by talking about Matpat's character, also known as William Afton. Or is he? Because in Shadows of Agony, Glitchtrap doesn't seem to recognize the face with the name. So, if Matpat isn't William, who else could he be? Last video we theorized that this character is actually Henry Emily, and that the real Afton would be played by Jehusta in the final part of the series. Well, since Shadows of Agony released, we've also had Taking Back Fazbears, which at the end we get a small snippet of FNAF Virus.
You won't get away with this. My uncle knows all about you.
Your uncle is dead.
Did you hear that? Because I think there was something in my ears when he said that, because I'm pretty sure he said that Elizabeth's uncle, aka William Afton, is dead. This confirms our theory that Matpat is indeed not the real William Afton, but a phony. Get it? Because phone guy? Yeah, you're right, it's a terrible joke. This also gives us basically confirmation that Jehusta is the true William Afton. So, how will Jehusta show up in this episode if he's technically dead? Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reintroduce you to flashbacks. Probably whilst Glitchtrap or Phone Guy is explaining how Afton died, we may see flashbacks showing scenes of the real Afton's descent into the darkness. That is, assuming he was a bad guy. May I remind you that we have also seen a small flashback in Dark Remains, when Phone Guy remembers a conversation he had with the safety inspector at the beginning of Web of Lies. But if Jehusta is actually Afton, then who on earth is Matpat? Surely his real name isn't Phone Guy. Well, if you think about it, the only plausible answer is Henry Emily. The FNAF Musicals could be doing a switcheroo on us, and instead of Afton being the deranged killer, it's actually Henry. Now, this obviously changes everything we thought we knew about FNAF the Musical, but when you look for the finer details, it all starts to tie together. In Night 5, when Phone Guy introduces himself, he says that he goes by many names, including Phone Guy, Matpat, Scott Cawthon, and even Evil Dirtbag with a Chainsaw, but not once does he mention the name William Afton.
Who are you? I'm your employer, Nate. I go by many names. Phone Guy, Matpat, Scott Cawthon.
Is one of them evil dirtbag with a chainsaw?
Why, yes! Actually, that one's my favorite.
But if he's stealing Afton's identity, then why wouldn't he list that too? Well, that's because by that point, everyone already knows that he isn't William Afton, and that the real one is dead. So what's the point of pretending to be him anymore? In the words of Matpat himself, it's all just Afton confusion. Hey guys, Future Me here. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but a piece of information I completely left out during scripting and editing has just come back to me. We will definitely be getting some sort of flashbacks, regardless of whether they are of Afton and Henry or not. How do I know this? Because of the Random Encounters ARGs that's been happening recently, specifically the one for Taking Back Fazbears. From this ARG, we got a script that we initially thought was depicting a scene for the respective musical. However, now that said musical has been released without any of these scenes to be seen, we basically have confirmation that we'll see them in Virus. Spoiler alert, this scene is showing a flashback of before Ground Zero took place. Let's hone in on it. Oh, and if you don't want to be spoiled, skip to this timestamp on screen now. So, how do we know that this is a flashback? Quite simply, it's because Mike is here, and because he died at the end of Ground Zero, it's definitely a scene that happened before then. Not only do we learn that Elizabeth didn't initially want to work at the Fredbear facility, but we also learn that they're both orphans, or at least that seems to be the case, considering how they speak about their parents in the past tense. So, whether or not we see flashbacks of Jehusta Afton, which, face it, we probably will, we'll definitely see some flashbacks. Back to past me, Whilst we're talking about fake Afton, let's also talk about some of the scenes shown in the Dark Remains trailer that we haven't been shown yet, specifically this one right here. In the image, we can see presumably phone guy holding a wrench of some sort, standing in a doorway that is probably part of a fazbear location, judging by the checkered design running on the walls. But what's the significance of this scene? Why am I calling out this image specifically? Well, take a look where he's standing, in a one-man doorway with a window next to it. Now think hard, where have we seen this location before? If you answered the original FNAF Musical location, you would be correct. In Taking Back Fazbear's, when circusbaby is interrogating the technician, he mentions that there's 3 separate locations. It's very possible that this is the same location. Further backing this is the fact that we know the location where all of this is going down at the moment isn't the same location as the ones we see in nights 1 to 5, mainly because we know that the offices are very clearly not the same. Why is he at this location though? Well, if we look at this image, we can see that neither the window nor the door has actually been placed where they're supposed to be as of yet, so we can assume that this is a newly purchased store that phone guy is still shaping up to be in proper working order. We also know that the bomb is also planted in the restaurant, which would obviously explain the need to get a new location. Why has he got a wrench though? Well, I have 2 possible theories. The first, the tamer of the 2, is that he's legitimately there to fix up the restaurant before the place opens to the public. However, the second theory is that this scene isn't actually at the present time, and is yet another flashback. If I'm correct, this could be the scene where phone guy kills a real William Afton and takes over his identity. Notice that he actually has hands in this scene, which means that it's likely to have taken place before Shadows of Agony, unless by this point he's already sewn Safety Inspector's hands onto his own wrists, but I find that less likely. If this is the case, then the location may be an earlier purchased one, before the glitchtrap saga. So, who knows, maybe we'll see an Afton murder scene. Next, let's talk about circusbaby. During Shadows of Agony, we see Baby kill off basically every technician in the Partyworks facility whilst she has the opportunity. And in Taking Back Fazbear's, we see her try to find the location that Freddy and the gang belong to, after interrogating one of the surviving technicians. Assuming she's on her way to the right location, she'll show up embarrassed and maybe even do something to defeat Glitchtrap. But when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, there's one key similarity between Glitchtrap and Baby. Have you got it? It's their shared hatred for humans. Glitchtrap hates humans because they trapped his file away, leaving it to rot. Circusbaby hates humans because they took away her freedom, not to mention the unbelievable amount of tests they ran on her, even going as far as to saw through her face to install a self-destruct chip to prevent her from leaving. I believe that Glitchtrap will probably see this shared hatred that they both have, and will probably try to recruit her into being another evil minion, using his glitch powers or something to corrupt her code. Whilst in this state, she'll kill Elizabeth, considering that she's the only human there anyway, not to mention the bond that those 2 have always seemed to have in the game lore, leaving Freddy and the gang to deal with Glitchtrap all by themselves. Eventually, Baby may snap out of this state after some convincing, betray Glitchtrap, and sacrifice herself to prevent him from leaving, as the timer on the bomb ticks down to 0, making amends for all the people that she's killed. However, alternatively, we could see Glitchtrap make a last-ditch effort into saving himself. If you save for the next time on section at the end of Taking Back Fazbear's, you'd know that Glitchtrap picks up Springtrap and says that he's making a new friend.
What are you doing? Making a new friend.
Which can only mean one thing. Glitchtrap is going to, at least attempt to, transfer his consciousness into Springtrap's body. After all, Lizzie reset his permissions in Shadows of Agony, meaning he should only be able to transfer himself into basic electronics, like the blender example Vanny gave before she died. If he does end up transferring his consciousness into Springtrap, he could also explain why Springtrap is so aggressive in the original musicals. And, on top of that, it could explain why Nate wasn't able to shut down Springtrap internally on night 5, because Glitchtrap fried his wiring whilst transferring his consciousness. Spoiler alert for ARG scripts. Speaking of Nate, we also know that he's going to show up again during FNAF Virus, from this script we got from the ARG. This definitely isn't a flashback because Nate already knows who Freddy is, and they reference the raisin ketchup pizza scenario. Freddy calls up Nate on the phone asking to order yet another pizza. During this phone call, just judging from scripting alone, it seems like the battle with Glitchtrap doesn't seem to be going too well for the Faz gang, which is why Freddy signifies that their pizza needs extra raisins, which, if you haven't figured it out yet, basically means help me and bring lots and lots of reinforcements. So, it seems pretty likely that we're going to finally see that scene mentioned all those years ago on day 4 of the original musicals, when Nate told Mark that he had a bazooka when first discovering about the animatronics.
How did you find out they were alive?
Same way you did.
With a machine gun?
No, I had a bazooka.
Finally, let's talk about the impending restaurant inspection. During Web of Lies, the safety inspector tells Phone Guy that the board would be scheduled to visit the restaurant within the next 5 days, of which 2 have passed by the time Virus takes place. This is the moment that the series has been leading to up to now, and I have a feeling it's going to somehow tie in with the bomb. I'm not too sure how it's going to pan out, but as I see it, there's 2 possible ways. Number 1, the board discovers the bomb and goes to shut down Freddy's and make an arrest for Phone Guy, but as they do so, the restaurant blows up, killing them all instantly. Number 2, they don't discover the bomb, but they discover all the kids murdered by Phone Guy, and when they go out to set the arrest for the alleged William Afton, he's nowhere to be found. At this point, Phone Guy would probably go back to using his real name when needing to, which we assume to be Henry Emily, but we'll see. And now that I mention it, future me back again. In one of the scripts that were revealed during the Dark Remains deep dive stream back last year, we got the script that was Purple Guy's interview with Phone Guy, the same scene we're shown a snippet of at the end of the Dark Remains teaser. In that scene, Random Encounters decides to make a big point of Phone Guy choosing to use the name Scott Cawthon when prompted to introduce himself. Quote, Phone Guy takes but an instant to process his answer. Cawthon. Scott Cawthon. End quote. I'm not saying that this means he's not Henry. I am not saying that this means his real name isn't Scott Cawthon either. But what I am saying is that it'd probably be a very good fake name to go under rather than reverting to using his real name once everyone discovers the truth about Afton. Maybe there's more to Phone Guy than we ever thought possible. But hey, that's just a theory. That's it for today's video, but do not fear, because I do have more FNAF musical videos planned. After today's theory, I plan to make a FNAF virus reaction video, followed by a full FNAF musical timeline video, covering everything from Monster in Your Head all the way to Night 5, but that'll be releasing after the supercut is out, so don't expect to see it anytime soon. As always, make sure to check out Random Encounters' channel for more of their awesome musicals. I've linked it in the description like usual. And hey, if you want to catch up on our theories for taking back Fazbears, you can always click on one of the videos on screen now. But if you want to watch Taking Back Fazbears itself in all its glory, click on the other video on screen. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.